Hello, my name is Pastor Andy Schroer from Redeemer Lutheran Church. There's a car wash not too far from where I live, where I always take my van to get it washed. And the guy in charge of the car wash knows me because I go there every so often. And one day I showed up with my name tag from church on it. He said, "Oh, I didn't know you were a pastor." I said, "Yep, I'm a pastor." And that's when he looked at me and said, "Flirting with Moses is cheating on Jesus." I thought, what? Flirting with Moses is cheating on Jesus. And then I got it. If you remember, Moses is the one who received God's law on Mount Sinai. There on Mount Sinai, God gave him the 10 Commandments on the 2 tablets of stone. And God's law is perfect. It's His will for all people. Every one of God's commandments is good and right, and we should obey them. But God's law also says that you have to obey them perfectly in order to be able to go to heaven. That if we mess up in just one point, if we just disobey one time, we deserve God's eternal punishment in hell. And honestly, we have messed up many more than one time. We have disobeyed all 10 of God's commandments multiple times, hundreds of times, thousands of times. When we look at God's law, it shows us that we deserve God's punishment forever in hell. But God loved us so much, He sent His Son Jesus to take our place. Jesus became a human being in our place, and He lived that perfect life we cannot. He always obeyed every single one of God's commandments in our place as our substitute. And then on the cross, He suffered God the Father's punishment for all of our disobedience, for every one of the commandments that we have broken. He suffered our punishment in our place so that we wouldn't get the hell we deserve, but the heaven that He won for us. As Paul tells us in Ephesians chapter 2, it says, "For it is by grace you have been saved." Grace is God's love. It's by God's love you have been saved through faith. And this not from yourselves, it is the gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast. You can't brag you're going to heaven because you did it, because you obeyed the commandments, because you earned it. It's all because of God's love. It's all because of what Jesus did for us. Now, the temptation for us as Christians is to flirt with Moses. To start thinking that it's because I obey God's law that God loves me. God loves me because I go to church. God loves me because I try to do my best. God loves me because I do this and I do that. But no. The reason God loves us is because He is love. The reason I get to go to heaven is not because I have done things, but because of what God has done for me. In the same way, we're tempted to flirt with Moses, to flirt with the law every time we fall into what's called legalism. When we give people the impression that, yes, Jesus died for their sins, but you still have to do this, this, and this, and this, and this in order to go to heaven. That's legalism. Legalism is putting rules in place that people have to follow. And if you don't follow these, you don't get God's love. You don't get heaven. But that's flirting with Moses, and that's cheating on Jesus. Because Jesus did it all. He paid it all for us. Now, when we see what He's done for us, when we see God's amazing love, it leads us to want to obey God's commandments. It leads us to live for Him who lived and died for us. But that's not the reason why we're going to heaven. We're not earning anything with that. Our lives, our obeying God is our thank you to Him. Because every time we think we're earning it, every time we obey God's law or make rules saying that you have to do this in order to go to heaven, that's flirting with Moses. And flirting with Moses is cheating on Jesus.